This week on the Squatchers Lounge podcast, we revisit a familiar topic: deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. Where the hell do you find this thing, and how do you capture it once you do? I'm sure we'll also talk about something about grown men in ghillie suits, ancient aliens, and the one thing that ties it all together, folks: poo. Yep, big sticky turd of science. So without further delay, I give to you your host, the man, the myth, the Reverend Jeff Kelly.
Welcome everybody to the Squatchers Lounge podcast. And how do I beat that? Well, I can't. I just can't. That's the way that works. My name is exactly that, the Reverend Jeff Kelly, and I am host of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. And over here on the other side is the dude that starts all this announcer crap, Father David Batdorf. How you doing, Dave?
Doing good today. Ready for this topic, in parentheses S. You know, we got a couple things we wanted to talk about, get off our chests. This is just going to kind of be a riffing show, which is sometimes good and sometimes not so good, depending on how we're feeling tonight. So let's do this.
Yeah, let's get it on. Well, folks, we got the multiple show topics for you tonight. And I got to tell you, it's going to be interesting. I guess the first thing off the top of the list I'm going to bring up is going to be Dr. Johnson. Jesus, God in heaven help me. Lord of the Sasquatch people, if you are out there as well, can you please communicate with Dr. Johnson and stop his nutty fruitcakeness, please? You know, we've been teasing the poor guy in the coalition page now for a few weeks about finding his habituation location and crashing it, so to speak, to go in and see what's going on out there. And the guy's just literally lost it. I mean, he literally thinks that people are driving around the hills out there looking for his site. What are you thinking about that, Dave?
So these guys are up there at Bluff Creek doing, like, you know, and the, you know, the historic Louse Camp kind of area. Like, why are they going to go crawling around someplace that they think that there's shenanigans going on when they're trying to crawl around in a place where they think that there's Sasquatch going on? That's my biggest problem with, like, you know, it's one thing to, like, you know, you can throw a jab out there, you can make fun. It's like, oh, well, I know where this is. You can actually legitimately know, like, because there's enough information out there to kind of figure out where this location is. If somebody really wanted to dive into that, you could find it. You know, they tried to keep the Sierra Kill site a secret, but there was enough information out there that people found it. The people go there all the time. So, but it's another thing to actually go ahead and do that. And it's like the people in the coalition are kind of poking fun, and they're putting together some really amazing, you know, like visual presentations of what could happen. But
400 comment posts.
yeah, just but at the same time, like, again, it's not worth the time because they have their own project going and they have something that they think is legitimate going. Versus something that's shenanigans. Why would they want to go to shenanigans just to give up their legitimate work and their time there? Come on.
I think the point is actually made. You can see that Dr. Johnson is so distraught over anybody going there and finding his farce that indeed he's going to try and do anything to discredit anybody that might do that. Now, as I've always said, and I'm going to repeat this again, I don't say that there are no Sasquatch around wherever it is that Dr. Johnson goes and camps. I've never said that. All I've said is I doubt that they're the ones eating the food and sounding like owls. That's what I have said. So for you people out there who are telling me that, well, so-and-so said they went up there and there's definitely Bigfoots up there, I am not calling that person a liar. I would never say that about anybody. If Adam Davis went up there and said that he thinks that there's a Sasquatch up there, well, that's on Adam Davis. I have not been there. I can't say that there are or there aren't. And as you'll know by we're going next month up to Washington, I put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to see if there's going to be things at the Brown property to make me believe that there's a Sasquatch there. Unfortunately, I won't get invited to go out and check out Soha with Dr. Johnson.
That's probably true, but so I mean, yeah. There's the big thing is that you're going to put evidence out there for people to scrutinize, and for somebody like me, what I've seen from Dr. Johnson is explainable, and it's not compelling enough to really make me take a leap that, okay, well, that was a Sasquatch hoot, or that was a Sasquatch footprint. You know, like, it's quite possible. And as he amasses this huge catalog of evidence that each individual piece, like, you know, taking it scientifically, each individual piece isn't standing up. Well, there's this overarching story that he's putting together of with all this evidence, but there's certain parts of that story that we get to pull out, like, okay, well, that's a great horned owl, like exactly a great horned owl, and this is exactly this, and this is, you know, and it starts to kind of crumble back down to where it's not such a big thing. It doesn't mean that he's not in an area. I mean, the whole western seaboard, in like the mountain ranges that go all the way down to, you know, from south of where Jeff is in the Sierras to like well north of me up in the very tippy top of Washington, there could be activity there. But you're gonna have to prove it. I'm gonna have to prove it to myself. When I have activity, we go out there, it's gonna be hard. Like, you know, I went to the Sierra Kill site and some stuff happened, and I said, you know, I didn't have that experience. I'm sorry. I can't just come out and say I had that experience, because I didn't. And that was what it was. And like, I don't. It's not that I don't believe anybody, or like, you know, it's just I didn't have that experience. I can't stand behind it, because you got to prove it to me, because this is a pretty big. I mean, you have to let go of a lot of stuff to be able to without having an experience to just say, okay, well, I take that 100% at face value.
Right, and just like I was talking about on the radio show Monday night, you know, Bigfoot is fantastical enough at being a 7 to 10 foot wood ape that runs around in the woods. It doesn't need to be super fantastical and be a cloaking, mind-speaking, interdimensional traveling being as well. It's fantastical enough to believe that there's a 7 to 10 foot wood ape running around in the deep woods of America
that we have yet to be able to actually document. It's not that, you know, again, like people say, well, how come people don't find this thing? Well, we do. I mean, that's where the stories come from, right? That's where, you know, the newspaper articles come from, and that's where like all this other stuff comes from. Like, so we do find them. It's just we aren't able to document when we do, because it's usually like random circumstances, or we're not prepared, or we don't know how to properly document that sighting or that experience.
And that becomes, you know, another problem in itself. One of the problems with the BFRO database that was out there is the fact that they throw out anything that has anything non-sequential or non-normal based in the report. The whole report goes out the window. When in fact there could be some details glinted from the non-woo connection inside of that sighting that should be collected regardless. So we don't have a complete look of it at all. But that was another thing that we were talking about, was where is that database now? I mean, Tom Slick paid for it all through the 80s and 90s with Peter Byrne and the Oregon Bigfoot Society. The BFRO tried to pick it up after that, but really, where is it now?
Oh, yeah, where do we collect those stories, and you know what? Just think of the I mean, social networking and the networking that we have. If we had some sort of a cataloging system that was standardized, like you had to actually input it into a form, and people that were sharing back and forth, and you know, people from the Squatchers Lounge, the Coalition, Team Squatching USA, the Bigfoot community, like everything, you know, like could compile information into a form that will out some of the stuff that doesn't make sense, and you could include or tie together, or we could try to draw correlations out of nothing and just do it statistically. I mean, you know, statistically it says this or that or the other, and try to narrow down something else.
Or put together the ones that don't have the normal type of history or story or encounter that's out there. Possibly put those together and compare those to see if there's any similarities that come along with them. Because if, you know, it's the same green glow coming from the northwest that, you know, appears to have Sasquatch walk through the interdimensional window, well, then there may actually be something to that if we can document other stories that are collectively the same.
Exactly, and if everything matches, I'm thinking there was a kind of an unfortunate, disappointing thing that happened at my work, and somebody was escorted off the property for theft, actually intra-employee theft, which is totally douchebaggy. But so it's one of those things, like something happens in a period of time once, and with 175 employees on site, like, it could have been 30 people. It happens again in a particular window. You take those two instances, all of a sudden it could only be 10 people. It happens a third time, there's only one possibility of who it could have been, and that was correct. Yeah. This is how probabilities and statistics, the more information you have, the more the more solid that it becomes. And so, like, if we took 100 sightings and put it into a database, we could draw some pretty good correlations. If we took 1,000 and put them into a database, we could draw some pretty amazing correlations. If we had 10,000, we might be able to figure out something beyond a shadow of a doubt that we could scientifically test, right? Test and prove.
And that's where we're looking for now. So, okay, enough of that nonsense. Let's get off of the scariness that is Dr. Johnson. Let's get on to the next topic. Now, here back a few months ago, we saw that Giorgio Hairboy Tsoukalos was hanging out with the Olympic Project up there with Derek Randalls and Dr. Meldrum and having a grand old time on a Bigfoot event up there. And old Reverend Jeff here piped up and said, "Oh, great. Another show linking Bigfoot to ancient aliens. That's just what we need." And old Reverend Jeff here remembers hearing responses from people that were up there going, "We don't care what you think anyhow. And he's doing a cryptozoological show. It has nothing to do with aliens. You don't know what you're talking about."
If Bigfoot pilots your UFO, that could be correct.
Lo and behold, here Sunday's edition of In Search of Aliens comes up searching for Bigfoot. Did you get a chance to see that episode there?
You know, I actually have not had a chance to glimpse that one yet. Although I did watch the original Ancient Aliens Bigfoot episode, and I have a feeling probably more a boots on the ground kind of
You would think so, but to be honest with you, it's literally like, out of the 44 minutes of content, I think it is, there's probably 8 minutes of it where he's actually boots on the ground in the woods with Derek and them. And I think he may have actually spent like one night out in the woods with them doing hoops and howls and wood knocks and stuff. But it was like 1 minute they're walking in the woods with Derek Randalls, and boom, next he's talking about the phylums and Enoch and ancient aliens and the Anunnaki. It was just like... Yeah, it was just like left turn aliens. It was like Bigfoot in the woods, aliens. Of course.
But Anunnaki and Nephilim, like, is he making a connection there? Because that could really stir up the pot.
And let's get this straight, people. The whole idea of the ancient aliens Anunnaki comes from a dude named Zechariah Sitchin. And much like our Giorgio Hairboy Tsoukalos here, who you would think might have a science background, doesn't. Giorgio here has a degree in, well, sports. I don't know exactly what that means, but Ithaca College, he's got a degree in sports. And, yeah, doesn't have any type of science background whatsoever, and ditched all of that and made Ancient Aliens his business for a few years. And, well, the hair's got him a reality show. I mean, that's the truth of the matter here. This guy has zero scientific credibility for anything ever other than what he's told you on television.
But he was on the TVs. I mean, like this. So, I mean, basically, yeah, anybody off the street, if you get a good gig somewhere, can become an authority on the subject. And let's just say here and now, like, I'm on YouTube and I'm talking to you and I'm sharing my opinion, and this is an entertainment show. I am not an authority on Bigfoot. You know what? I've never seen one, and I love the subject, and I'm enthusiastic about it, and I like to talk about it, and I like to share my thoughts and like let my brain go crazy. But I'm not an expert. I'm not a scientist. Like, you know, like I like to talk about science because I'm also enthusiastic and really interested, and I love that topic too. And I like to, you know, mesh the two subjects together. But again, and I'm sure that like in private, somebody who's like Giorgio would probably say the same thing. It's like, dude, I love aliens, but I was going to be a sports talk show guy.
Right. And the whole point to all of this is you and I have as much scientific credibility as Giorgio does. I mean, that's the truth of it. He's enthusiastic about the ancient alien theories, so he read Zachariah Sitchin's books, and he read what's the other guy, Van Daniken's books, and he read a couple of other books. And
well, obviously you read Lloyd Pye because that's where the Bigfoot comes into the Sitchin book.
Right. So basically, he read 5 or 6 books and made this his lifestyle. And somebody heard about him and put him on television, and he just agreed to let his hair go wild. And they've put him under contract for the last few years, and he's made a bunch of money at it. And I say, congratulations, dude. That is awesome, possum. But please stop dirtying up Bigfoot with aliens. We have a hard enough time keeping real eyeballs going on here with the biological creature that we have running around out here in the woods without you dirtying up the water thinking about alien beings, Anunnaki, God, heaven, angels, Nephilim, and every other damn thing that's linked up to this thing. I mean, really, do we have to have an ancient alien theory to have gorillas? Because we got them damn things. We got a bunch of them things. They're down there in Africa. They're up in the mountains and in the lowlands. Imagine that. And at one time, they were probably all over the damn planet, but we just don't have the fossils to show that yet. I don't need aliens to have Bigfoot, damn it. And what does it say about a project that will take the money from a show like that, knowing that they're going to make a link to something that has zero credibility to do with Bigfoot?
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, 3, 4 times. You know, where do you start pointing the finger now?
So it doesn't matter why you're on TV. It's just you're on TV. So we shouldn't care. It's your project. You're right. It's your project. You're doing your thing. We shouldn't care what you're doing. You're making your money. You know. You're running your project the way you want to. Stop asking us to help you with credibility then. Okay, because your credibility is coming into question here a few times over the last few months. And I'm not saying any one particular person in particular is a bad researcher because they're part of this project. I ask just simply, what does it say about a project who will take ancient alien monies just to get on TV?
You can say that the premise was supposed to be, but again, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, 3, 4 times. I mean, at some point, like, you got to realize what they're coming back because you're willing, and if
right. And that was Derek commented on the post when we were discussing it in the coalition group, and he was like, well, we don't have any of those ancient alien beliefs in our project. Well, why all of a sudden is it important for you to go out and make that clear to everybody? Is there a question about whether you believe in aliens all of a sudden? Well, perhaps maybe you shouldn't have been part of a show that had to do with aliens to call your credibility about alien theories and Bigfoot together into question. I mean, you reap what you sow. You get what you ask for. I don't know what to tell you on that one, but as far as I'm concerned, your credibility is still in question, even though you say you don't have any ancient alien theories in you. You took their money. You allowed them to use your project to make the links. I don't know. I think there's some accountability there myself. I mean, that's just me, though. I'm just some jackass with a YouTube channel.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just exciting to be a part of the production and do that whole thing. But again, when it comes down to time to take donations of time or money and do other things, it's like, well, that's starts to reflect on the project. It's like, okay, well, maybe they're not going to need as much funding as they were before. I don't know.
Well, that becomes the other question too. Is would I have done it? I mean, had the Ancient Aliens people called me up and said, "Hey, Reverend Jeff, we want you to go Bigfooting with Giorgio out in the woods," my question would have been, is this going to be a show that links Bigfoot to aliens? Because if it is, I'm not interested. Number one, it ain't going to pay anything. I mean, you might get $500 for a night in the woods with Giorgio Tsoukalos. You're not going to get much, trust me. Okay? And even if you did, is it worth your credibility? Nah, it's the $500. $5,000 isn't worth my credibility of not linking Bigfoot to aliens. Plain and simple. Sorry, I would have turned it down. What about you?
I would have just tried to make as many, like, I mean, they can cut things up, and we've seen it before, like, cut things up and make it sound as if you said things that you didn't say or whatever. But, I mean, it would basically, I'd have to be in the contract that I can say what I think, and when somebody says, well, do you think this? I can just be like, no. And here's why. Here's why. And no. And here's why. Like, so... Again, I mean, I was actually contacted by a production company at one point, and I just said, well, I'm probably just gonna be poo-poo for the show with kind of the theme that I'm getting from this whole thing, so I'd be interested if you're interested in this take on it, and they never called me back.
Yeah. If you're interested in the skeptical side of this, please, by all means, hook a brother up. I'll come on TV. We can talk about it skeptically. But if you want me to support Ancient Aliens and Bigfoot, I can't do it. However, I will be glad to come on a Ancient Aliens and Bigfoot or bullshit show. I'll be glad to debate it with Giorgio.
Exactly. You could go on an Ancient Aliens and Bigfoot show as long as you can state your opinion and feel good about it, and probably have a good time. Take the $500, hang out with Giorgio. He's probably a cool cat, and just go with it, and have a debate out by a campfire. That would be awesome.
Right. And what they're going to tell you is, well, he just said he wanted to come Bigfooting with us, so we really didn't know what the context of the show was going to be. And just like Dr. Meldrum said when they used his interview for the Russian Yeti show, that, well, I didn't know what they were going to use it for. They just came and interviewed me about Yetis and then threw it into that show. If I'd have known that, I'd have never done it for that show, because that's just bad credibility. And then I see another post by Nadia in the Squatchers Lounge or somewhere else about some shark researcher got the same bullshit deal where they came out and they went shark researching with them for a few days, and then they took that footage and they threw it into one of these megalodons or one of these super hammerhead shows for Shark Week and made them look like they were having a race against some shark killers that were out there that never really happened in the first place. And to those people, I say simply, perhaps you should ask what the money is for before you just take it and give the interview. The money is the least important thing of the whole thing.
Yeah, like when somebody comes out on a boat with you and like, wait, you want to film me racing through the water, looking and counting sharks and looking at their features and taking the pH balance of the water? You want to film that? Really? No, they don't want to film that. They want to make something exciting.
Right.
Like you take your freaking pH strips and throw them in the garbage and be like, okay, Lars, she blows. That's Lars, the white whale. Arr.
Get her hooked and bring her up to the boat, Joel.
That's
right. And I look at this stuff and I just it's more disappointment than anything else. I used to idolize Dr. Meldrum. I really did. I was like, dude, here is finally a credible scientist who's willing to put his career on the line to say that what we're actually looking for out here is real. And I still say, dude, you've put your nuts on the line a lot, and we say thank you for that. Just as of late, we got to start to wonder where your brain's at with some of the things that you're getting involved with these projects. I mean, the Todd Standing thing, God bless you still have not come out and said that you either do or do not stand behind the Muppet Heads. And it's about time, sir, that you address this with the public. Otherwise, you're just lying to us. You're avoiding the question just to avoid it. And what does that say about you? What are your thoughts on that?
Dr. Meldrum is a great guy to have on our team Squatch, and to talk and to reel back in some of the people who are taking some flying leaps and say, yeah, no, but so and so said this, so and so said that. He's a historian as much as he is a scientist, because there's nothing for him to study that directly relates to Sasquatch that can be proven. Let's just put it that way. But I would say, Dr. Meldrum, you don't have to say yes all the time.
That's correct.
Yeah, you can say, well, yeah, you had the mind speaky disappeary thing, right? Now, yeah, no, or yeah, you did that thing that people are pretty much calling a Muppet. Yeah, no.
Right. I mean, to say that you have no opinion of that evidence before you went out there and did whatever documentary you filmed with him, and then to turn around and get on the payroll and do the radio show with him, is an insult to my intelligence and everyone else around us. You have an opinion of that. You just haven't given it because possibly the green looked too good. I don't know. But you're the only one, unlike Giorgio, who had any real scientific credibility, and, well, God bless it, now it's gone. What's left? That's a bunch of us still out here in the woods. The same people that were in the woods before you got out there in the 90s, Dr. Meldrum. Okay, I was in the woods before that. And I've been in the woods longer, and I'm going to be in the woods afterwards. And, well, if that's going to be your bow out, is to just say you've had enough and you're going to take it wherever you can get it, then so be it. But remember, there's going to be us out here that are still watching and still asking questions. That's all I'm doing. I'm asking questions. To what end does it come? Do you want us to believe you or not? If you do, then let's get you with a real production crew, and let's go out there and show real Bigfooting, not Todd Standing's knocked over friggin' logging road.
Yeah, but again, I mean, Jeff, you and I have both tried to film, or have filmed expeditions, or even like just like a day hike, and it's difficult to get what you want or something that's shareable outside of that. And especially if you're trying to do a production, yeah. So I mean, for me, you're not going to get anything off it. I've watched all the Monster Quests. I've watched all the Finding Bigfoots that a guy can watch. And I still like some of the new season. I still find myself every so often I'll just pop on and hey, yeah, why not? But I mean, the television, even the old documentaries are sometimes even worse than the newer stuff.
But I love them.
But yeah, but that's part of the whole. You think of the whole story, and there's only going to be one truth to that story, but there's so many aspects of it that kind of just distract us, and it can even shape our ideas of what this thing could possibly be. That it's interesting to as an intelligent, free thinking person who doesn't have any of these preconceived notions and looks at all of this impartially. There's all sorts of different ways of looking at this subject, and in so many ways it's amazing that we all sort of agree on even the sightings thing of what people are seeing. And then sometimes we don't, but for the most part, how do we even do a composite sketch and make it look like something else? Is it because we've seen a composite sketch, or is it because people actually see these things and people say, hey, that's exactly what I saw, but this other one that doesn't look like what I saw.
Yeah, and that becomes the other question: is are there a gazillion of these things running around out there? Are there a bunch of different species? Because everybody can't agree what the hell these things even look like.
Well, and then that becomes to okay, it's your own experience. It's the way that you perceived that experience and what you saw and how you're able to convey that to somebody else, and then somebody else interprets that, and then the end user kind of looks at that, and it's all going to be kind of indifferent or neutral, because the person who's trying to do this drawing is going to just make it kind of neutral, well, it looked a little more human-y than that, and then they just all of a sudden put a big white guy nose on it or something like that, and that's okay, that's how we're processing what's being told to us and processing that information, and somebody's well, that's close enough. and that's but again, there's so many distractions and so many other things, can it portal jump, or can it even can it speak, or is it just going to grunt and hoot? You know, like, I mean, whistle and make hand gestures. You know, like, these are, there's so many questions, but again, there's only going to be one truth. But there's all these other things that are incorrect, and those points of, like, you know, people's perception is just as interesting to me in this story. Like, once we have proof, I'm gonna have to go back through everything, and that's gonna just blow my mind. You know, like,
it's like, oh, like, crap, that guy was right. Yeah, they do have do have a toilet claw until they're like 11 years old or some crap. Who knew? All right, now we're gonna move on to the next topic of the night. And this one's Mr. David Batdorf just been waiting for this one. Killing Bigfoot. That's right. The GBRTRQNL, whoever the heck.
LMNOP.
Yeah, those guys. Bigfoot Crossroads. Matt Knapp put up a post about this new TV special, Killing Bigfoot. Premieres in October. Bobby Hamilton and Jim Linsdale, founders of the Gulf Coast Bigfoot organization, the GCBRO, take their team and hit the woods in a Bigfoot television special like no other. Their mission, to kill a Bigfoot. Well, there you have it, folks. That's basically what the premise of the show is going to be. Instead of not finding Bigfoot, not killing Bigfoot.
Not killing Bigfoot. Maybe mountain monsters, like firing firearms into the dark, which is not a good idea, by the way.
You know, I laugh at those guys every time I see Buck rock that thing and pull off a couple of shots. It's just like, God bless it. I really hope those are blanks, fellas. I really do, because them things will go for friggin' ever up there in the woods, man.
Yeah, you're just firing into what? Nothing. I mean, yeah, I'm sure they set those shots so there's a place to catch, and it's probably all nice, and it looks again, it's entertainment. It looks the way that it looks because of whatever. But again. So we have another group who is actively hunting a Sasquatch. I don't want to say hunting. They're like, I have had a definition of this kind of prepared at one point. They're not hunting. They're marauding. They're just like wandering the wilds for something to shoot at, right? Like, they're not actually hunting. They're not tracking. There's no data for where they need to be.
They're bloodlustily raiding through the woods, attempting to kill a Sasquatch.
Yeah, like the definition of marauding is like perfect. It's like, you know, to plunder or pillage or take you know, like to basically just go out and to try, you know, to try to cause harm, you know, like, and so. I mean, they're really just roving in the woods, trying to shoot at stuff that moves, apparently, because you don't have a data. You know, if you were going to go hunt a deer, I've probably said this before, like you go and you survey the area, you find out where the deer have been, you go through, but you also have a whole data set of the ecological habits and movements of a deer, and you know what time of year you need to be there. You know that when this comes into, you know, bloom, or when these are ripe, or when that's there, then this is going to move, and that's going to move, and you're going to come in here, and this is a great place that we've seen them before. We saw them last year, we saw them last week, so we're going to come, and I'm going to set myself up here, and I'm going to wait for them to come through, because eventually, in the next few days, that's likely going to happen. I mean, that's hunting, right? So they're not hunting because
predictive expectation is hunting.
Yeah, well, we can't predict what's going to happen, so they're literally just trying to I don't know if they're going to go out and like knock on trees like BFRO style, try to cause a ruckus and then go chase after it and start shooting, because that is not hunting by the you know, sport hunting aspect of anything. So yeah, they're not trying to be sporting, and they're not trying to be covert, because to be covert you'd have to be silent and lay in wait, and you don't necessarily have an expectation that something's going to walk in front of you.
And I would have to say that, seeing as how we're only a couple of months from the air date, it's already through post-production. If they were successful, I think they would probably have bumped up the air date so that the body doesn't decompose any longer than it actually needed to. So I'm pretty sure that the hunt wasn't successful with a body. But that goes into another question. Would you sign away your evidence until a show aired if it was worthy evidence?
I mean, the expectation has to be that you're not going to be successful. I don't know, like, otherwise they would have just done what they were doing. You know, it's like the, you know, the next stop for that show, Area X, or something.
Right. That's exactly the question. Would the production company even expect results? Because if they're expecting results, I think that you should be sadly mistaken, because I got news for you. If I can actually kill one, it won't be while I owe you the evidence.
Yeah. So, well, and you know, maybe you have to sign a waiver, but the only, like, a television show is looking for at least 2 seasons. Like, just to do a 1 season television show isn't worth anybody's time, or to shoot for that as a goal. That doesn't make any sense. Somebody who's doing a documentary, like, maybe, but what you have is somebody who's trying to tell a story, and at the point when you don't have evidence, they still have to tell a story, so they're just going to talk about how much of a nut job you are.
Right, and that's really par for course with what happens with all the documentaries of late.
Well, again, like, they don't have the big story, so they have to go with the backstory, which they can probably pull out of some of the stuff that you're talking about.
Right, and if you watch the stuff lately, it's always, almost every documentary that's been in show that we're out Bigfooting, and, well, you know, we weren't successful on this trip. You know, there hasn't been anybody with any real Bigfoot activity in a documentary in a long time now.
I'm trying to think of, like, where was ever that they.
Oh well, they went out. They were out in Texas. It might have been a Monster Quest episode. They were out there with a lady reporter. They took the. It was a sheriff and another fellow. They were off-grid camping way back where they got ruckused up by Bigfoot throwing rocks at them, and they went back to the site, and they believed that there was something moving between the trees, rocking between the trees, and a rock got thrown at them. And then there was the Monster Quest episode of the Snowgrove Lake, the Sasquatch attack episode with Dr. Meldrum and the other guys that were up there when they were investigating the bear track that was out there on the screwboard. You know, they had rocks thrown up on top of the rafters at them. Now, if I'm not mistaken, there was some controversy over that one. That might have been a producer fucking with them or screwing with them or something. Pardon my French. I don't remember what the outcome of that was, but my point being is it's just like not even tracks, not even anything that's even just been like relative of Bigfoot activity. It's just like, yeah, we're hanging out in the woods with some drunk old hillbillies, and that's going to be our show this week.
People are hanging out with some drunk hillbillies right now or something. I don't know. Like, but basically the I don't know. Like, you have to imagine the amount of time that people put in to get like that one track or that one. You know, like, people don't just walk out. Like, either that or, you know, you go out and you're hiking and camping all the time and you find something and that sparks your interest. You know, it would seem like all the time at that point. Well, I just went out there and I found it without trying. If you try to find something, I mean, you're looking at like years of these weekends and whatever, not just the one filming weekend or 2 filming weekends. Like, that's not gonna happen unless you're, I mean, like Nat Geo, and you post up a guy in a tree stand for like 3 months, and he's pissing into a freaking plastic bag, right? Like, you know, and like that's what that's gonna take, but that's not what television is going to do it all, because they need to turn a quick profit. It's like the fast food business of your television, right? Like,
right. And you know, it's our fault. It's absolutely 100% our fault, because we watch it. And we watch every stupid thing that comes on, and we don't turn it off, and we watch it all the way to the ends. And some of us, like me, will watch it over and over and over and over again, and it ends up getting the ratings that they want, so they put out more crap, and we don't complain about it. If you watch a show, a documentary, a Bigfoot show that you're unhappy with, you know what? The production company is listed in the credits. You can find them on the internet. Send them an email. Tell them how you really feel about this crud and that we are expecting them to do better, and perhaps they will. But we've got to move on past this crap. We're going to move on to DNA. That's right. This is a Bigfoot poop in the woods. Well, I would assume that a Bigfoot poops in the woods, but if you come across that poop, what the hell are you supposed to do with it? David, can you give us an idea of what we're supposed to do with that poop?
Well, you know, Dr. Todd Disotell says that you're looking for the beginning of the poop. You got to really dig deep into the poop. Both
That's
hands. Right. So But why? Why is it the leading edge of the poop? Like, if you can figure out where the poop comes from, I'm gonna say poop like 500 more times because I like to. So like, if you can figure out where the leading edge of the poop is, why are you taking that part and not like it's all been like digested and this, that, and the other? Well, everything that's gone through your gut has been, yes, the lining cells and other things that you've made. It is going to contain a little bit of DNA, right? Mucus that you produce is going to have sloughed off cells in it, but mucus itself is not cells. The acid in your stomach itself is not cells. It doesn't have DNA. You produce that. Your organs that are made out of cells produce that, but DNA lives in the cells. Nuclear DNA is in the nucleus of the cell, the little bean in the middle, and then the mitochondrial DNA floats around on the outside, and the mitochondria on the outside, like the power plant of the cells, right? So they're doing these things, and they're releasing these things, and they're in your stomach is, like a bear's stomach is breaking down the berries and the grasses. So you have all the cellular material of those berries and grasses all kind of mixed together and broken down with the acid and we extract all the nutrients and as we're breaking up these cells and then you poop it out. Why would you want that for DNA? Because as it passes through your anus, I just had to pause there because it's funny. As it passes through the bear's anus, it's taking cells off and putting them on the end of that poop. So you're not testing the poop. You're looking for cellular material on the end of the poop. So is poop really a good thing to be testing for DNA? Because you're probably going to contaminate it in the process of getting it to them anyway. Like poop is like people say poop, you can get DNA from poop. Yes, you can get DNA from poop, and that's why on Bigfoot Bounty they're wearing masks and doing all this other stuff. Like, don't contaminate it any further than this overly contaminated piece of crap, literally, that we have on the ground here.
Because it's already contaminated with whatever the hell it contains.
Yeah, with what it contains and what it fell on and what it fell through and what stepped on it, or what, like all these other things. It's the same reason why people to take a DNA swab. They're not taking flesh, they're not taking hair, they're simply taking a Q-tip and scraping the inside of your mouth. They're scraping off cells, and that's enough to tell me that I'm part Neanderthal and I came from this part of Europe and belong to this tribe that came over at this time. It's pretty amazing what you can get from a few sloughed off cells, because you need an abundance of those cells. Now, something that slipped through your bum crack is probably not a huge amount of cells. Like, you're not sitting there scraping like a toothbrush with a Q-tip on the inside of your mouth, right? So how are you going to get a good enough amount of material out of poo? I'm just over the poo collection. I'm actually over most of the whole DNA collection, unless it's a dart that's filmed going into the backside of a Sasquatch, and then you come in with your clean gloves and you clean everything and put it into a sterile container. Then it's all going to be contaminated just based on the environment.
Yeah, let's get it straight, folks. Poo. There's one reason to collect Sasquatch poop. One, you saw Sasquatch leave it. Okay, if you see Sasquatch leave a pile of poo, that's the perfect opportunity to collect a pile of poo, because it's going to tell us what it eats.
Exactly. Well,
the poo is not collected for DNA purposes to find out who left the poo. You saw the poo left. So if you saw Bigfoot leave the poo, or there's a couple of great big-ass Bigfoot prints on either side of the poo where he squatted over and left it, and a knuckle in front of him where he had a hard time doing it.
And a little turd, yeah.
Right, whatever the case, Bigfoot left this turd, then yes, you want to collect the turd, because on the leading edge of that, where it pierces through the skin, it's going to actually collect a little bit of the skin of the animal that is coming out of, and that's going to be able to tell a lot. However, what it's eating is far more important than whatever those pieces of skin were. Because if Bigfoot actually left that would answer 1,000,001 questions on where to find the other ones.
Exactly. It's like, okay, well, I have a location, I have what it ate on this date at this time and these conditions and this like yada yada yada.
Then you
And
can
you
make
could go through,
hypotheses based
but
upon that.
you wouldn't take a genetic test to find out if it was eating blueberries. You'd do a chemical test.
Or an eyeball test like Justin and I do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, if there's seeds, if there's grass, if there's hair, if there's bones, yeah, most likely probably not bones because
No, there's bones and all kind of poo.
Cats, you don't
Especially
digest the bones.
Cats. Yeah, especially
Yeah,
the big cats will find rodent bones and stuff like that where they're eating them.
Yeah, they'll crunch up everything. Canines can actually digest calcium in bones, so that usually doesn't come out in there. That's actually a good way of telling, okay, if there's a big old turd and if it's got hair and bones in it, that's a cougar, not a coyote or a wolf. Because they can actually process some of that. Oh, the hair still goes through the dogs too, but anyway.
Right. So now, okay, so we've gotten that established that, okay, Bigfoot does poop in the woods, and you see Bigfoot poop in the woods, yeah, sure, you should run up there and collect it. If you find a mysterious pile of poop in the woods, and you're curious as to what left that pile of poop in the woods, then you kind of dig through the pile of poop in the woods until you can find the leading edge of it, pinch off the leading edge of it, and put that in your little paper envelope or your Ziploc baggie and mark it, unknown animal leading edge of poo. Because that's about all that's really going to be important about that is the date, the location, and what it was. That's not something I'm going to rush right off and send off to Dr. Dishotel to have DNA tested. Now, should I be hiking through the woods, playing my flute, doing my dowsing, trying to figure out if there's portals around, and I see Bigfoot come walking through the forest, then goes to cross over the barbed wire fence and snags the old nut hair as he crosses over and leaves it behind, that, my friends, is a completely different story. That is DNA of the creature contained. So, David, what will we do with something like that?
Okay, so, again, poop, like we have some sloughed off cells. You might as well try to give, like a quick mouth scrape to Sasquatch. Hair is made out of cells. That's how our body makes hair out of material that does contain DNA. There's more viable DNA, or the viable DNA possibly lives in the medulla. Melba Ketchum will tell you that Sasquatch hair has no medulla. I would challenge anybody to find any hair that all the way down to the root has no medulla. If the hair pulls out at the root, it's going to have the skin tag, which is obviously going to have cells on it. So you're not looking for DNA. DNA is not what you're looking for. You're looking for cellular material. You're looking for cells, because in those cells is that information. But you're not looking for DNA. Like, oh, I found DNA. No, you found organic material that contains cells that you can find out what that was by testing it. And so what they're going to do is they're going to separate out that material. They're going to isolate a cell or two, and they're going to break the freaking crap out of it. Like, and so like all this material kind of goes out, and they get more information using multiple cells, because you're looking at chunks all of the time, chunks. But the more material they have, the more chunks they can piece together and make sense of. So again, like really, like a hair, you can pick it up with your fingers. You can contaminate it. You might not want to. That's Sasquatch, all right. But like you can. I mean, even if you don't want to use your own DNA, you can use the DNA of a leaf, or something else. Like there's all sorts of ways to contaminate it. What is going to happen to a hair if you're going to get the inside of it is they're going to actually chemically wash, which is strip the outer layer of the hair off and test the information inside. You're probably going to want to give a sample of yourself so they can rule out any of those possible patterns or whatever. But again, it's all statistical and it's not 100%. So the good question is, what is the best kind of material that you could possibly find? Like, is it saliva? Again, I'll say, when you're DNA testing saliva doesn't contain DNA. It contains however many cells came with it, right? And saliva is not typically abrasive. Actually, it's quite a bit like it's a layer of you're not going to knock off a lot of cells in your saliva. It's viscous and it's not going to take a lot of cells with it. So there's no DNA in saliva. Your body creates saliva, but it's not a cellular material. There's no DNA in it. There's a few cells that come with it. So it's a really bad. There's going to be as much contamination as actual data. The best possible DNA sample would be, either you could use dried or liquid blood, or actual flesh tissue. It could be off the end of a hair. It could be, what is it? Was it J.C. Johnson found the toenail or something like that? It's going to have cellular material within, where it ripped off and all sorts of other stuff. There's these sort of things. Hair, if it has the end of the follicle and that skin tag on it, that's where I would be pulling my shirt up over my face to go get that, because that's something good. That's something testable, and we can use that. And not just because Melba Ketchum says so, because that's actually good tissue.
Right.
But for the most part, the evidence that we collect has to come with the surroundings and the environment and the date and the time and the weather conditions and the temperature and all of these other things. What did it eat? Why was it there? So Sasquatch puts a nut hair on the barbed wire fence. Well, where was it coming from, and where was it going to, and why? So we can predict these movements, and not necessarily I'm of the frame of mind, I don't think so we can hunt them, because at that point I don't think we have to hunt them.
Right.
At that point, we can do long-range surveillance and learn more about them that way. And when a Sasquatch shits in the woods, we'll know about it.
Right. See, that's the thing that I look at. If we can predict movements and we can isolate our search locations, and we can predict what areas the animals are going to be moving through, then our efforts can be further refined into encounters much more often. Even so that possibly a habituation type situation is real, where the animals aren't so shocked that the humans are there, like a Diane Fossey or a God, I can never remember the poor
Jane Goodall, where she has to like it was 3 years of following this troop until they finally just gave up and okay, fine, you can come in.
Right, exactly. But we don't have anybody who is really of depth. These are city folk going after this big ape for the most part. Yeah, there's some woodmen in a lot of them, but you got somebody like Justin. Now, everybody says, why you support Justin? Well, I got news for you people. If it's a hoax, why has the man spent the last 6 weeks immersed in Sasquatch country trying to find another one?
He's not trying to get on television again, I'll tell you that.
Nobody's paying him to be up there. He's worked really hard to make sure that he can take this time of year to get up there and do this type of thing. So, time to get off your high horse, people, and figure it out. Now, I'm looking to hopefully be up in the woods this weekend myself and get back out on an expedition for a few days before we get out to the Squatchcation. But in case you guys missed the show last week, that's right. Father David Batdorf and I and a bunch of others are heading up to Washington State, and we are heading out for the Squatchcation. That's right. We're going to film us a feature-length movie while we're on vacation, doing some Bigfooting up in the Pacific Northwest. First stop, we're going to investigate the brown thermal footage in where the hell is Chehalis Reservation? Is that the real name of the place?
Yeah, at or around that sort of an area-ish.
Yeah, ish. So it's not Grays Harbor. We're not going out to the coast. That's not where Bigfoot normally live. But it'll be one heck of a time. Be sure to come by the Squatchers Lounge and find the group at facebook.com/slounge. Ring into the group, click join. We'll be glad to have you. Come on over to facebook.com/slounge podcast, and you'll find our fan page. We still have less than 500 likes on our fan page. I don't get it. 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. Boo. YouTube.com/slounge podcast. And, of course, at Twitter at Lounge podcast. Mitchell Wilson, we love you, buddy. Thanks for watching every show and being there in the lounge with us. Alita,
Take care of yourself too, Mitchell. Take care of yourself, Mitchell.
That's right. Shout out to Wes Losner. Took the big move down to San Diego. Go find him down there at the Neighbors Tattoo, Squatchy Inc., and get yourself some Bigfoot tattoos, man. You can't miss him. And, of course, our sponsor, that's Squatch Coffee Company, squatchcoffee.com. Go out there and get yourself an order of up, and we're going to see some new products coming your way pretty soon. David, you looking forward to our vacation or what, buddy?
It's going to be a good time. It's been a while since I got out and into an area, and I've been talking with Jonathan and Sarah, and I'm getting really excited. And there's, I mean, who knows? Like, my perception of things is always a little bit jaded, but it's going to be a good time. They're good people, and we're going to have fun. And if there's something that's worthwhile, I mean, man, like, how do you leave that, Jeff? Like,
well, that's the thing is we got days to play with. So if there's something real going on at that time, then we've got the extra time to investigate it and see if we can't get to the bottom of it.
It's good to have flex time in your Squatchcation.
That's right. That is for sure. Well, that is going to do it for us this week, folks. It has been an extremely busy week for everybody. Now, next week, we're going to leave the topics open because we're going to fly by the seat of our pants because I'm not even sure that I'm going to be back by Wednesday to have a podcast. I'm so sorry to actually say that, but it is actually the case. So we're going to leave the topic open for that, but we're going to start experimenting into this ancient alien Bigfoot thing, and let's really get the why it ain't true out there. How's that sound, David? Next show, let's really explore why the ancient alien thing doesn't really work,
or why it works. I don't know. Maybe if I look into it, I'll change my mind. Also, you guys always on the Squatchers Lounge podcast, fan page, or in the Squatchers Lounge, if you guys have ideas for topics, something that you want to see us do. I know we've had a couple of requests, and those are kind of banked in there, and we kind of do we do our own thing. We fly by the seat of our pants, but they're in there. So if you ever have anything you want us to talk about, we'll see if we can address it, in length or brevity or whatever. But put it up there, see what happens.
Absolutely. Well, for Father David Batdorf, I am the Reverend Jeff Kelly. Thanks for joining in for the Squatchers Lounge podcast, Season 2, Episode 33. We give you more entertainment than your favorite television show ever thought about. We'll see you next time, and thanks for watching. May the Squatch be with you. I still got to figure out a better soundboard. That just sucks. Oh, I forgot to tell you, my dowsing rods came in.
Yeah.
They're here. Yeah, man, we'll talk about that on the next show. DowserDan.com. That's right. Dowsing rods. Arkansas crystals built in. These suckers have got some power, too. I found the whole... I think I found the spigot the other day with them, but I'm not sure. They pointed me towards the swimming pool the other day. Does that count?
Yes.